Hi, everybody. I'm Melinda Gallant, and I want to welcome you to another Cape Conversations. Ooh, I've got a good one for you. Yes, that's right. We're going to open the Sandwich Historical Society's vaults. We're going to see what's in there. I wonder what is there. Perhaps a dead person. No, I'm kidding. It's going to be a lot of fun. So come along. Let's have another Cape Conversations. Hi, everybody. I'm Melinda Gallant. I'm in a very special place in downtown village of Sandwich, Massachusetts. And I am at the Sandwich Glass Museum, one of our most wonderful museums in town with such a wonderful history. And I am sitting with somebody who's young, who's pretty, and knows everything there is to know about archival stuff. How are you, Olivia Padula?
I'm good. Thank you for coming down.
Well, I'm so glad to meet you. So, Olivia, tell me a little bit about yourself. What's your job here?
So I'm the curator of collections at the museum. I started last February as a volunteer intern, and I just kind of worked my way up to this position.
Where did you go to school?
I went to UMass Amherst and I studied art history.
So. Oh, wow. Great.
Yeah.
So you worked yourself up to this position. Excellent. So you must have been a really good intern.
Yeah.
Especially a volunteer intern, you don't get paid, right?
Yeah, so they hired me in about May of that year, and then I just kept working at it. And I found the most fun going through the archives and working with the objects.
Wonderful. So do you have any input into like what they do for, if they're going to do a display of something or?
Yeah, so for our current displays, I help with the upkeep of them and the cleaning. If there's any like new displays that we're putting out, we have like a new accessions case that gets updated every year.
Oh, nice.
But we're going to be having a special exhibit coming this fall, and I'm curating that.
Wow,
so that's opening in November.
That looks good on the resume.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's my first big show.
Yeah. Nice. And what's it called?
It's called From the Maker's Hands. And we're pulling artifacts that we found in the collection that were used by the actual glass workers at the factory.
Wow.
Yeah, so
very cool.
We have some examples on the table
I see that. I'm going to ask you about those. So tell me what you think is most special about the Sandwich Glass Museum.
What's most special, I think, is just the amount of history that we're able to preserve here and the opportunities we have to share that history with people. And yeah, that's really just what we've been working at, is making that easier and more accessible for people. So
do you deal with the history of the glass factory itself? I mean, any of those statistics? I can't say the word, but statistics, like when it started, and do you have all that information?
Oh, I do. I give tours.
Oh,
so
good.
I've got
Give us a tour.
Memorized.
Give us a short version of the tour then.
Of course. So the glass factory was started in 1825 by a gentleman named Deming Jarvis. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the name. It started first as the Sandwich Glass Manufactory, and 1 year later it was incorporated with other businesses in Boston, so it became the Boston and Sandwich Glass Factory, with the actual factory buildings being here in town and most of the offices in Boston. They started with free-blown glass, all handmade stuff like you might see in our daily demonstrations. And then they moved on to what they're most known for, which would be their pressed glass. And that was kind of their step into mass producing. So what they made at the factory...
Cup plates.
Cup plates.
Oh my gosh.
Thousands of cup plates.
I have 2 stacks of cup plates.
Yeah.
And I asked somebody, are the cup plates worth anything? And they all go, well.
If somebody wants some,
somebody wants cup plates.
Yeah, I think we have about 800 here in our collection.
Do you sell them ever still?
We have some reproductions that we sell.
Yeah. No, not the originals, but.
Yeah. We've got huge displays. But there's still reproductions being made.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm sorry to interrupt, but go ahead.
No problem. So they're mass producing for a long time. And there's a common misconception, I think, about like the pieces they made were mass-produced goods, and they were catered towards this middle-class market that was
Right.
now emerging. So these were everyday objects, and a lot of them, could still be used. Of course, we have them in our collection.
Right.
But they were made for everyday uses and stuff. And they didn't really get into the luxury goods until a little bit later. They were no longer able to compete with Midwestern companies around the 50s and 60s, because there was glass houses all over the United States.
Right.
And so they switched focus to now more luxury goods. And so that's what you might think of when you think of sandwich glass, is those big, huge lamps that you would see.
Right, the
or
beautiful lamps.
Yeah, or all the etched glass or the cut glass, that kind of thing. So that was
so that would have been, what years would that have been?
They started catering towards the luxury markets around the 50s and 60s.
Of 1900s or
1800s.
1800s?
Sorry,
yeah.
So they were in production from 1825 to 1888.
I see. Well, and I've heard it compared to the Anchor hawking of glass. Their mass production glass, not the fine works.
Yeah.
And not the beginning works, but when they were doing mass production, it would have been could be compared to an Anchor hawking. You need a juice glass. You go to the grocery store and you pick up a juice glass. They didn't do that then. They went to whatever the mercantile was, I'm sure. So did they sell on that level?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of their goods would be shipped to sellers, maybe there'd be a dry goods store, and they'd sell these really cheap mass-produced lanterns, for example, or they'd ship them out to Boston to distributors, and they'd be sold that way.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So tell me, we do have all these little things here. Tell me about this.
So these are from a little bit later in the factory days, around the 1870s. And these I've pulled out because I've been doing a lot of research for this upcoming exhibit called From the Maker's Hands. And so these are pieces that are from the collection of Albert Shaw. He was a very prolific collector, and he donated his collection to us.
How lovely.
Yeah, and so these are all objects that would have been used by the decorators of the factory.
So this one, for instance, was it do we know what it was for?
It probably would have been a bud vase, and that would have been a cut glass piece, but as you can see, it's unfinished. So there's some really rough cuts around it, and if it was finished, those would have been restored to the brilliance of the rest of the glass. It wouldn't have been frosted.
Well, and you told me there's this. You didn't want me to touch the tube part because this is the original.
Yeah, there was wax markings, so that's how they first laid out the design. They'd have the first person in their assembly do the wax markings, and that would tell them where to cut. And then would go to the first person who would do the rough cuts, and then it would be passed along assembly style with each next person refining the design until it was complete.
Wow, that's terrific. So what else do we have here?
So we've got some other objects here. These are wooden patterns from the molds that, so the pattern department would have, made a mock-up in wood and then sent it out to be cast in metal.
So what would that have been if
this
it
would
were
have
glass?
been a goblet. So you can see this base part would come off, and then this would have been pressed.
Right, gotcha.
This would have been a stopper for a wine bottle or cologne or something of that sort.
The top part or the bottom? Or
the
all
top
of it?
part.
Okay.
So this part would have come off.
I gotcha. Okay.
And then we have a palette knife.
Wow.
That's
a big palette
a big
knife.
one.
My husband's an artist. He would go, whoa, I like that one.
So this was used, as well as these two pieces here. These are paint mullers for mixing pigment for painting on the glass at the factory. And then over here, I've got some sketches of designs that would have gone on the glass. So these are all hand painted by a gentleman named Edward Swan. He was the head of the decorating department in the 1870s until the closing in 1888.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, these are all watercolored drawings. I've got another one here. Watercolor paintings, excuse me.
Yep.
And so that's an actual mock-up of the lamp and the design.
Wow.
And we've got a couple like finished pieces that you can see, like, oh,
That's
that
tremendous.
sketch came right from the artist.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
And what's in the box?
In the box is some paintbrushes from the factory.
Oh my gosh.
So I'll pull this one out. So you can imagine this would have been for like color washing.
Let me see. Oh my goodness.
And for some bigger scenes.
I know. And look, I mean, obviously well used.
Yeah.
So where did you find these?
So,
I mean, were these tucked away in somebody's shed or?
So these were all purchased from the home of the collector. Of the artist, Edward Swan.
Is that right?
And then they were kept by the collector, Albert Shaw, for many years
I see.
until his collection was donated to us in 2004. And since then, it's been tucked away in our glass storage area.
Tell me the story on the picture.
The picture. So this relates to research that was done by somebody from. So they found us on our website, the
No way.
Sandwich Historical Society. So he found our website via reverse image search on Google because he was doing some research on a very similar picture that he owned. And he reached out to us just wanting more information.
Sure.
So he found us on our Historical Society website. And on there, we have all of our records publicly available for research.
And that website would be?
It would be sandwichhistoricalsociety.org. And then if you go to the top, there's a little research tab, and you're able to browse our archives.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
I pulled these objects because they're ones that I personally had been researching and using this online database to find information on. But they're available for the public, so you can go on. You can search by keyword or subject or.
Well, so I know you have an archive. You have archive rooms here.
We do.
Have lots of archives.
Yes.
So tell me about what's in those archive rooms. And as we were walking to them, I noticed several cradles. Where did they come from, and why were they there?
Yeah, so since the founding of the Sandwich Historical Society in 1907, we've been collecting both glass that was from the factory and objects that relate to town history. So we have two storage rooms. We've got historical storage, where we keep all of the objects that are not glass, and so that would be things related to the town.
Like the cradles.
Like the cradles, yeah. Unfortunately, those don't quite fit in the room.
I
You
could
saw
tell
it,
that.
It's a tight
Yeah,
space.
It's a tight space.
So in there, we've got stuff like from textile working. We've got this huge bike from the 1900s or 19th century.
Oh, one of the big ones.
Yeah. So we just were researching that. Apparently, it was called like a bone breaker.
Yeah.
But those all are things that people donated to us for us, to preserve
Because
them.
they were here in Sandwich.
Because they were here in Sandwich.
Well, a long time, in another lifetime, I worked at Heritage, and I learned something which was so basic about museums, that it's usually somebody's stuff.
Oh, yes.
In other words, in the case of Heritage, it was the Lily's stuff,
Yeah.
And then, of course, now they've added to the collection so many beautiful things, as we all know. However, that said, it started out as his stuff. Did the Sandwich Historical Society start out with one person's stuff, or was it a collection of the town's stuff?
It was a collection of the town's stuff. So
That's
this has
great.
always been a town-wide organization
that's
and
great.
a place for people to come and share their history and a place to keep it safe.
Sure.
So we could all learn from it later.
Oh, that's great. So again, back to those archives. What else do you have in there that would be interesting to people if they went online? What would they find? They could just, anything.
Yeah, pretty much anything. So
I'm putting you on the spot. You have to roll back. Okay, well, I was just in there today, and what did I see?
Yeah. So let me think. We've got like some old globes.
Oh, wait a minute. The beautiful sandwich glass globes?
No, they're not glass.
Okay.
I'm thinking of the historical storage room.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. So globes. What kind of globe? You mean like world globes?
World globes, yeah. So
Really?
we've got two of those, some early ones.
So a world globe, do you know how old they are?
I don't know specifically how old those
You haven't
ones
researched
are.
those yet? Well, I was
Yeah.
going to say, our world has changed so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that would be interesting.
So yeah, we've got the bone breaker bike. That's fun.
Yeah.
We've also got a lot of paintings. You've seen a couple in the
Right. Well, there's
this one over here,
yeah,
for
right
example.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do we have? A lot of ceramic goods as well.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Now, were these things used by locals? I mean, were they, for instance, if it's a ceramic pitcher, could it have been used by somebody who lived, in the what was the Thornton Burgess house, up here, or any of the historic homes here?
Yeah, a lot of them come from the children of people who, lived in the town and collected stuff. And so, it happens, people are going through their stuff after, their parents or someone passes and they're left with this huge collection and they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And so they bring it here and give it to us because, that way we'll be able to share it with everybody and it doesn't just get thrown away or dropped at a thrift store or something.
Right.
So yeah, it's a collection, and it's the history of the town and the people that lived here.
Right. It's funny because I moved here 40 years ago. So when I gobbled up everything, all the history of Sandwich I could get. And it was kind of interesting to know that the Glasstown managers, or above management, actually owners, whatever, lived on Jarvis Street. Those were their homes. And then the workers lived across the tracks, which is kind of funny, closer to, because the factory itself used to be on the marsh, right? Off of Jarvis Street, or at the end of Jarvis Street, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. That's where the monument is.
Exactly, yeah.
So I don't know, but that's where,
Yeah.
And so is it true that the formula for making glass was burnt up when the factory caught on fire and burned down?
I have not heard that rumor.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the first things, and then I heard it wasn't true.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa, we actually have several recipe books in our
there
collection
you go.
that
So
are not
it wasn't
burned.
true.
Yeah.
So it wasn't true.
Yeah, we've got a couple recipe books.
It makes great for visitors, though.
Yeah.
You don't give them the wrong information. That's great. That's good to know. But it's because Deming Jarvis lived on Jarvis Street. Yes, in that big yellow house.
Yeah. So it was a company town.
Yeah, it was a company town. That was so funny.
It was nice. So a lot of people stayed, and they, their history has been passed down, and now we're the proud stewards of that history.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you have this. When does this exhibition open?
This opens November 15th.
And how long is it here?
It's until March of next year.
And so then what happens after March? You're still deciding, or do you already know what's going to happen next March?
So next March, this will all come down, and we'll have a next exhibit going up. It's going to be a contemporary exhibit called, actually it doesn't have a title yet, but it's featuring a glass artist, Josh Simpson.
You had a kind of a contemporary exhibit in here this summer, Carl Lopes.
Yeah, Carl Lopes and Bob Dane. That's still up right now.
Oh, it is still up. Oh, everybody should come see it.
Yeah,
He's
closing.
A wonderful artist, a little funky. I don't know that I would have big pieces hanging in my house, but I do know people have pieces hanging in their house, and they're beautiful.
They are
absolutely
wonderful.
Yeah.
It closes November 2nd.
So got to get here soon. That's great. And then this will be ready. Will there be a time lapse between when this starts and the other one does?
Yeah, so there's going to be about 2 weeks where we do setup. So that's
I got you.
From the second.
Changeover?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
So we'll get that all set up.
Wonderful. So you are the archivist here, right? Or the archive, what's your title? I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm the curator of collections.
Curator of collections.
So we do have an archivist here.
Okay.
She's volunteer. Her name is Jane. I don't know if you follow us on our socials, but there was a little post about her recently introducing her and the work she's been doing.
Right.
And a lot of the work she's been doing has been going towards these searchable archives, our public records.
Right.
So all of the records that are accessible now, there's about 12,000, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that includes, our entire library of books and all the historical objects and all of the glass objects. So those are all searchable now because they have images associated with them, which is very helpful for research.
Right.
When you know what you're looking at.
Or you know what you're looking for.
Exactly.
That would be my problem. I wouldn't know what I was looking for.
Yeah. But there's still about 3,500 records or objects here that don't have images associated with them. So it's something that we're continually adding to, and that's a lot of what Jane is doing is, updating this public access website every day. So,
well, it's funny because you come to Sandwich and you learn about the first thing they talk about is Glass Town. It's the Glass Town. And we have so many glass artists here too. And certainly within Sandwich, and then periphery, the other towns close by, there are so many glass artists. And you work with many of those, don't you?
Oh yeah, everybody, all the glass artists in this town, they're wonderful.
Yeah.
They come by the museum all the time and they help support us.
Well, in the center where you have the kiln, or is it a kiln?
It's a furnace.
A furnace, where you have the blast furnace. Okay. There's that huge Cholula looking, because it's not, glass hanging, the lamp. It is stunning.
Yes, our chandelier.
Your chandelier that was from
McDermott Studios.
Yes.
So that was made, I think, 20 or so years ago.
Oh my gosh.
By David McDermott and Yukimi Matsumoto. They both work at McDermott Studios.
And I think they're together.
They are, yes. Partners in every sense.
That's right.
And it was at the Cape Cod Resort for a long time.
Right.
And it was recently donated to us.
Well, it is absolutely gorgeous. Yes, they're turning the Cape Codder into a Margaritaville.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a giant flip-flop hanging now with a light in it or something. I don't know. I think this is much prettier. Between you and me. You got the best end of the bargain.
We're not complaining.
No, I would think not. So what else is happening here? What else do you have here that people would be interested in? I know you do talks and things like that as well, right?
Yeah, so next year, actually, our schedule is going to be jam-packed. We're celebrating the 200th anniversary of the founding of the factory. So I told you, 1825 is when they opened.
Right.
It was actually July 4th. They
oh my gosh.
Was the first gather of glass.
Oh my gosh, so we have Thornton Burgess this year, and we have the Glass Museum next year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So we're really excited about that, and there's going to be a ton of programming coming up, so you have to stay posted for that.
Sure.
But for the rest of this year, we've got this exhibit opening up. We've got the Glassblowers Christmas also opening November 15th.
And you just did the pumpkins.
We just had Pumpkin
I missed
Fest.
the pumpkins because I was doing other things, but I noticed some of them are still downstairs in the gift shop.
Yep, we still got some.
And if I can interrupt you, you have the best gift shop.
Thank you.
In Sandwich, for sure.
I have to say, it's difficult coming into work every morning
And
because I walk past and I could just spend my whole paycheck there.
It is the best. It
Oh
is
my God.
really, everything is beautiful. Anyway, I'm sorry, I did interrupt you, which
No
people
worries.
know I do all the time. Anyway, so tell me more. Tell me more about the big celebration.
Yeah, so we're going to be having glass talks with contemporary artists, a lot of programming around, well, actually, we're hoping to have a July 4th parade.
Oh,
what do they call
a float.
A float,
Yeah, float.
Thank you.
Oh, in the parade next year that we do. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and we're also...
Well, Sandwich Community Television has always, I think, been a judge, so, you'll have to talk nice to them so you can... Maybe
slip
win
them
this
20,
one.
yeah.
Slip them a 20.
Let's see. We're also expanding our educational programs at the museum.
Oh, nice.
So it's going to be called the Sandwich Glass Academy.
Nice.
So right now we have the Glass Experience. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, you can come in after hours and make your own paperweight and get that experience of working with hot glass. So we're looking to expand that, introducing some more glass blowing opportunities as well as, other ways of working with glass. It might be stained glass or glass fusing. So more to come on that as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's terrific.
Yeah.
Well, First of all, you've given us a ton of information, which is really great. The objects that you brought out are beautiful.
Thank you.
And it's great talking about the archives because, people don't know that you have all this stuff here.
Exactly. A lot of our stuff, it's unfortunately been tucked away for so long.
Right.
And so we're calling it, the Sandwich Glass Museum is opening the vault.
Yeah, nice.
So, I'd love to be able to show you guys the archives and our storage rooms.
Wonderful.
And people can get a sneak peek of what's available on our searchable public access records.
That's wonderful. So it's sandwichhistoricalsociety.org.
It's also reachable via the sandwichglassmuseum.org. There's a little tab that you can click on it.
Oh, wonderful.
Brings you to the website.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Olivia Padula, thank you. You did a great job.
Well,
thank you
so
for
much. Having me.
And good luck.
Thank you.
It should be a big year next year.
Yeah,
we'll have to come back and talk about that.
Absolutely.
All right. Wow. Olivia Padula, she is fantastic. And she knows everything there is to know about beautiful pieces like this that are so old and so valuable and really tell the history of the town of Sandwich, Massachusetts. And yes, we did go into those archives and there wasn't a single dead person there. Shucks. Anyway, we like to have fun, don't we? So come along next time and join me for another Cape Conversations.